What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Red and Bold Show, 49ers fans. It might feel like we're sometime in November or something with the injury news, but we are, in fact, in week 2. But everything's going to be okay. Everybody just take a breath and hold on. I am one of your hosts, Mark Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot. I'm joined by my co-host, Anthony Robertson, who you can find at 49ers Cutback. What's going on, Ant? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, this is an early morning show for us. We've really never done anything too early. We did afternoon for the most part, but Wednesday morning, this is kind of fun doing it before the 49ers, go out there for another day of practice. And yeah, injuries are kind of on the mind as George Kittle gets put on IR. The 49ers move on from a kicker, and then there's Juwan Jennings is day to day. So I think that there's some interesting things this week when it comes to injuries, and hopefully everyone's able to play, because I think if they can, 49ers have a really good chance to go 2-0.
Yeah, for sure, especially if Brock Purdy's playing. If not, then we'll have to see, but we'll definitely get into that stuff. You talked about some kicker news. Jake Moody is gone. Eddie Pinheiro is in. Was this the right move? I mean, you and I, since Jake Moody was a rookie, we've kind of defended him, because he was a rookie and rookie kickers struggle. And then last year he was really good before his injury, really bad after. So we were kind of defending him that, hey, maybe he can turn the tide here. A very talented kicker, but he just can't get out of his head.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to is they're going to get to the point where they were going to lose football games because of Jake Moody, and that's unfortunate. I was hoping the best for the guy. He showed a lot of moxie when he was in Michigan, kicking in the weather, kicking in big situations, and he felt like he was built for this. But for whatever reason, when he's been in the NFL, he has struggled to consistently hit field goals. But it's not just field goals. He also can't get the kickoff quite right. Kick the first one into the end zone for a touchback. That's not what you want. You want it to land between that 1 and 5 yard line, kind of right there with the new rules. Field position's a huge thing. I mean, you look at the first play, the Seahawks ran a pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're across midfield and nearing field goal range because of the field position game. So It was inconsistencies on kickoff, inconsistencies with the field goal. And I think at that point, it started to really weigh on the rest of the team. And there's a dark cloud on that special teams unit. And I think that they needed to move, get a clean slate for the 49ers. And I think a clean slate for Jake Moody will do him well. At some point, he'll land somewhere. I hope he kicks really well for whatever team he lands on. I think he's a good guy. But this was the right decision for the 49ers. They could not go any more games with the risk of Jake Moody potentially, putting him in a predicament. And, how frustrating is it when you go and you get into field goal range and you don't feel comfortable enough to kick a field goal? You got to try to go for fourth downs. No coach wants to be in that situation. You even start thinking about, do we kick the extra point or do we go for 2? That's just not the kind of game plan you want to have. You got to have somebody you can count on. And now the 49ers are hoping Eddie Pinheiro is going to be that guy. He did run a little bit of kicking with Brant Boyer in 2021, him and Robert Saleh. He was good in this time with the Jets. He was 5 for 5. So maybe Eddie Pinheiro is going to be the guy for the 49ers.
Yeah, and Pinheiro is, I didn't know this, but I'm trying to see who put this out. Looks like Matt Miyoko is the one that I saw this from. The 4th most accurate kicker in NFL history. So that's a welcome change for sure. And then I heard Matt Barrows of The Athletic, I heard him on KNBR say that Pinheiro has played twice as long as Moody, but has actually missed less kicks than Moody already has. So I think that that's a positive thing for 49ers fans. Hopefully we'll see some some consistency. And thanks everybody for joining us here so far. We already have several here in the chat with us on this early morning. So thank you to those that are here. Notorious GAV says that Pinheiro has an 88% completion rate. So yeah, that's good. Definitely want to see that more than we want to see the misses. That was frustrating. And the block kick, that wasn't Moody's fault, but it's like, even though that wasn't his fault, that was kind of, I guess, maybe the culmination of all the Moody frustration. I think it was right after that there were reports that players were throwing their helmets on the sideline. And I tweeted that if I had a helmet, I would have thrown mine too, just because, like, man, the special teams still stinks. And I think it's just going to take time for Brant Boyer to whip them into shape. But it didn't look any better on Sunday than it did last year or the year before.
Well, I think that part of it goes into the kicker. I think the kicker's a big part of this. I mean, when you start having the mishaps, the easy misses, then when there are mistakes, it's compounded. And, just like with the kickoffs, if you're going to kick the ball and it's going to land at the 9-yard line, there's a chance that it's going to be a better return than if it lands at the 2 or the 3-yard line. I mean, these types of things matter. You can't move in the new dynamic kickoff until the ball touches the returner. So these guys are waiting, and the 1-yard line and the 9-yard line are extremely different in distance and how many yards you're going to be able to get. And that allows these, defensive players, the kickoff team for the 49ers, to get there. So your kickoff team suffers because of these inaccurate kickoffs. In the field goal game, you struggle there if you don't get points. That brings frustration onto everybody. And, he has been known to kind of kick some lower kicks. That's just what he does. He kicks like a line drive sometimes, 32 yards. You don't need to kick line drives. Get that ball elevated. Get it up through. You got plenty of leg. So there was just some of these things that were frustrating about Jake Moody. And now, hopefully we just put all that to the back burner. Eddie Pinheiro is going to handle it. He's going to take care of kicks. He's going to be accurate. He's going to handle kickoffs. He's going to kick it to the right locations. And hopefully Brant Boyer, now that he's remade the special teams, it'll start moving in the right direction, because this last week did look like the other situations, and we don't want that. So new battery of everybody. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and hopefully he can kick those kickoffs to the right spot, because having the other team start on the 35 is not really what you want. And that happened at least twice on Sunday. So hopefully we can see that part improve as well. Brock Purdy is injured, may not play Sunday. I think that it's good that they didn't already bring in another quarterback. I think that maybe that's good news. Definitely should find out something today, I would think. But if Brock Purdy doesn't play on Sunday, we already know that Kittle's going to be out for 4 weeks because he's going on IR, so at least 4 weeks. Can the 49ers win in New Orleans, a team that has a horrible offense but a pretty good defense? Can they win there if Mac Jones is the quarterback? Because we'll get into the offensive line here in a minute, but they don't win last Sunday if Mac Jones is the quarterback, I don't think, because Brock Purdy was running for his life.
Yeah, it's a different type of game plan you'll have to have with Mac Jones. Mac Jones wins within the pocket. That's how he's going to win. He's going to get first read, hit it. If it's not there, second. He's not the athletic guy that can extend plays the way that Brock Purdy does. Now, the one good thing for the 49ers, if Brock Purdy doesn't play, and there's not a lot of good that comes out of that, is number one, Mac Jones has experience playing quarterback in the NFL. He started a lot of games in New England. He's played in some tough situations. This is a dome. That should kind of help. The other thing that helps Mac Jones a lot is the New Orleans Saints struggled to stop the running game of the Arizona Cardinals. So you could come in there and get a heavy run game going and really take some of the pressure off Mac Jones and make some of these key throws that he's going to have to make and simplify this offense. And that's ultimately what the 49ers want to do anyways. They want to run 12 personnel, 21 personnel, run the football, get some play action looks for Mac Jones if he's going to be the quarterback. So I don't think the game plan would be too much different if Brock Purdy's the quarterback or Mac Jones, because it's going to be a run-first offense this week, especially at some key throws and first downs. I think the 49ers showed last week they can move the ball up and down the field, 24 first downs. It's impressive. That's the kind of thing that helps the 49ers against the New Orleans Saints, who really run defense wasn't their big thing that they did. And it's a defensive coordinator they're familiar with, Brandon Staley. They went against him when he was with the Rams last year. He was in the building. I'm sure Kyle has some understanding of what he likes to do defensively. I think that all plays into a positive outlook for Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, whoever's behind the center in this game.
How did you think that Brock Purdy played on Sunday? There were There was the first interception where to me it looked like he just didn't get enough on it, maybe because he was throwing off of his back foot or he just misread how much he needed to get on it. There was the second interception, which was just a horrible decision, throwing into a situation where Ricky Pearsall is surrounded by 4 defenders. There was the ball that should have been a touchdown that was knocked away at the last second in the end zone. Great defensive play where it just felt like he didn't whip it quite as much as he probably should have. But then he did what he had to do. He looked great on that opening drive, and then on that final drive, really good. Some people are criticizing him for the touchdown throw, saying that once again a bad mistake. He's throwing into cover, but I don't know. Maybe he was trying to throw it away. Maybe he just decided, I'm going to put it in a spot where either Tonjes can catch it or it's incomplete, and we live to play another down. I don't know, but what did you think about Brock Purdy's performance? I thought that he played pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good game for Brock Purdy. I know he made mistakes. I thought that the first interception that he threw, I thought that Greg Olsen did a very good job on the telecast of explaining why Christian McCaffrey would have been holding Ernest Jones there in that position. And so Brock Purdy wasn't really expecting Ernest Jones to get that deep of a drop and be able to undercut that route. And that's why he kind of lollipopped it out there. He's not expecting to have to get, that guy there. He's just going to make a nice, easy throw to Jawan Jennings for a first down on that deep crosser. And so that one, I kind of understand what happened with it. I think the second interception is a little bit more difficult to understand, throwing into multiple players in coverage. My only guess is that he did not see the underneath player. Maybe because of the vision being obstructed, he was getting pressure in his face. He did not see that guy underneath. But he's, once again, he's given his playmaker an opportunity to make a play. I think that right then, with some of the injuries, the Kittle not being on the field, I think those things play into it. Kittle and McCaffrey take so much attention from defenders that it opens up things for everyone else. And a lot of times there's not defenders, in front of these guys. So I think Brock Purdy was trying to make something happen. I think he did a little bit too much in that situation, and it caught him. And with the one that Tariq Woolen got, I mean, that's literally the difference, right? A fingertip. That's Brock Purdy putting 1 extra mile per hour on the football. And so, you get it. This is why I said yesterday in my video I did upon further review after the film watch, is I said he's just not in midseason form yet, right? This was him kind of working things out. He only played a little bit in the preseason. I thought we saw some of that, but I look for him to reestablish himself, kind of get some things going. And one thing to consider that we did not consider about this, we talked about him throwing off his back foot, some of the things like that. Well, if the toe was bothering him, he might not have been able to get enough juice on the football to be able to throw the way he wanted to throw. So that's something to consider as well. I don't know if that played into it, but it's something I've considered as maybe why he's not getting the ball with as much juice as he wanted to down the stretch in that football game.
Yeah, and, overall, he was pretty accurate. In fact, I thought he was very accurate on Sunday. Had a great connection with Ricky Pearsall, which we kind of have been talking about that the two seem to be gelling really well. And so I just expect that Purdy to Pearsall connection to be strong all season long. How did, when you look back, upon further review and in that video, in the other work that you're doing, watching the film, breaking that down, how did the offensive line look? Because I think that I saw that Purdy was pressured on over half of his dropbacks. They struggled to run the ball in the first half. Now, in the second half, they started getting it going. And Trent Williams, good grief, he gave up 6 quarterback pressures, which was more than the rest of the offensive line combined, I think. What was going on with were they that bad? Was it just a first, because week 1 is always weird. I mean, week 1 is when you get the worst team in the NFL that upsets the best team in the NFL. That happens. And so division game on the road in Seattle. I know that weird stuff happens, but when you break down the offensive line, how did they look? Are you concerned going forward, or are you like, it was just one of those games?
Well, number one, they're going against one of the better defensive lines that they're going to see during the entire season. I mean, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, Those two dudes are legit. You got Byron Murphy, who's been a top pick last year from the University of Texas, Jaron Reed. There's a lot of talent. Then you add Boye Mafi, who's finally starting to kind of come into his own. He's been a developmental player off the edge. And I felt like they had a nice mix of guys. We knew it was going to be a little bit of a problem for the 49ers offensive line. I thought early in this game, Trent Williams looked like he was a little rusty. They were doing some things, jumping inside in key spots. That was getting Colt McKivitz. That was getting Trent Williams a little bit. They weren't prepared for those inside pass rush moves early on in this game, and I thought that gave them some problems. I felt as this game progressed, the 49ers offensive line got a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. It felt like Trent Williams started becoming more like Trent Williams, and his play elevated. He started playing better in the run game. I also believe that the 49ers' early run game scheme was ineffective because of some of the things Seattle did. I thought Seattle came out with a really good game plan and made it difficult for the 49ers when it came to their scheme to be effective. Once they changed at halftime, that's when you saw the run game kind of pick up and they kind of started getting some things going. So the adjustments were definitely needed. So I think it was a combination of, hey, a couple guys are rusty. Some things are a little bit different than how these guys go. They're pretty good. And then the when it came to the run game, the plan wasn't great early, or at least it didn't work out. It would have worked if the Seattle Seahawks wouldn't have been changing up some of the things they normally did. Give credit to them. So, these opponents, they're still pretty good. And Mike McDonald's a good defensive coordinator. I think that made it a little bit difficult. But I think Trent, a couple weeks from now, is going to be a lot better than he was in this game. And I think overall, that'll help the offensive line play better.
So Kendrick Bourne is now back with the 49ers. The question is, what kind of impact can he have on Sunday? Somebody here in the chat said, who was that? Joe Carmack said he, being Brock Purdy, won't trust Bourne either, because earlier he was talking about how he doesn't trust Gage and those other guys that Brock Purdy doesn't. And that is something to consider, that Kendrick Bourne is not going to have a whole lot of time with Brock Purdy. Now, if Mac Jones plays, they played together in New England, so maybe that'll be Jones' top target. I don't know, but how do you see that playing out, especially in this first game? Because I can't see Kendrick Bourne coming in and making a huge impact. But if Juwan Jennings isn't playing and George Kittle's out, they're going to need all the help that they can get.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that's going to be tough to figure out. It's how quickly can Brock Purdy build a chemistry with Kendrick Bourne. And if Brock Purdy's not practicing, it's even more difficult to build a chemistry with Kendrick Bourne. The one thing about Russell Gage was he was with the 49ers all during the offseason, all during training camp. Even last year, he was on the 49ers practice squad. So that's why it made sense for him to be elevated and be one of those guys. I don't know how long it's going to take. I do know this, is Kendrick Bourne has the trust of Kyle Shanahan. So as long as he has the trust of Kyle Shanahan, I think that will be something that Brock Purdy looks at and will kind of lean into that. Mac Jones, on the other hand, has a lot of trust in Kendrick Bourne. They've played together. So if it ends up being Mac Jones, that should be an easy kind of work together for Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne, as they've had a relationship when he was with New England. So I think that will help the rapport there. But Kendrick Bourne also knows his offense. He knows where to get. And one of the ways you are going to endear yourself to a quarterback really quickly is get to the right spot at the right time and make the catch. And if Kendrick Bourne can do that, he can probably help. But I don't know how effective he will be against the Saints. I don't know how many times he'll be targeted in that game. If Juwan Jennings doesn't play, maybe a little bit more. But you've got a guy like MVS who his first game, they didn't even look at him. I mean, they didn't even target him. He basically just ran people off the entire game. So we'll see. I don't know how quickly this thing turns around for Kendrick Bourne. I hope it's quick, because he can make some key third down catches and some conversions. If you just go back and look at what he did at New England, he was still a guy that could create some yak yards, make some big catches when he needed to, and he's an energy guy. And the 49ers need energy on that offense. They need some guy that's got some juice. They don't have Debo anymore. They need somebody else. They're not going to have Kittle. Kendrick Bourne would be a nice addition for that.
Yeah, when they come out with the boombox at the beginning, I think that Kendrick Bourne needs to be one of those players in the front. They need to put Jair Brown back in the back, though. I don't know why he was near the front, but I'm making mountains out of molehills. I know that. There was Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Dang, I'll have to come up. Maybe I'll see something in the chat. Oh yeah, Russell Gage. I don't know that he had any targets either.
No, he didn't. Russell Gage wasn't targeted. It was pretty much the wide receivers that were out there. It was pretty much just Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings that were getting the targets, and then the tight ends. I mean, Brock Purdy, he trusted Luke Farrell on a big third down. Farrell came through. Jake Tunges, when he got out there, he had 3 catches, never had one in his entire career. He comes up with 3 catches, 2 of them extremely pivotal. So, yeah, he was focused on them. He was finding Juice, which I love. I love the rail route to Juice down the sideline. I thought that was a great play. Found Juice another time. Then you had Christian McCaffrey, who had 9 catches. That's what you expect, right? The offense to roll through George Kittle and McCaffrey. Once Kittle went down, then Brock Purdy was like, hey, let's roll it through Pearsall, Jawan. I thought it was pretty successful. But, yeah, Russell Gage, MVS, not really a part of the game plan. Sky Moore, didn't even see him out there on offense. 49ers definitely need wide receiver help. That's why they signed Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of hope that that Jordan Watkins could be ready soon. But, again, he's a rookie, and I just don't know what to expect from a rookie playing. If he did play on Sunday, this is his first NFL game. And what can you really expect from a rookie playing in his first game when you're missing some of the guys like Kittle? But hey, maybe with Tonjes and Luke Farrell, his one of his catches was on 4th down, and so it was a big one. I think I remember a 4th down one. But yeah, those 2 tight ends came up pretty big. So, any thoughts on Jordan Watkins before we move on?
I think they're going to take their time with Jordan Watkins, and getting him reacclimated to this offense. I think that's part of the reason he's inactive. I expect him to kind of stay inactive for a little bit as they're trying to get him used to the game. I think Kyle talked a little bit about how it was going to be more difficult now for him to help early on in the season because of the injury. He needed those practice reps. He needed those preseason reps. And because he wasn't available, I think that set him back. And so I'm expecting it at some point. I just don't think it'll be this week, but who knows? I just think with the addition of Kendrick Bourne, MVS, maybe it happens if they don't want to elevate Russell Gage this week. Maybe they have Jordan Watkins active, but I don't think they necessarily need him right now.
Notorious GAV asked, you guys think we should elevate Braden Willis with Kittle out?
I think if they're not going to bring in another tight end, then yes, they should elevate Braden Willis this week. Number 1, Braden Willis can help you on special teams. Number 2, you need somebody just in case there's an injury. Heaven forbid Luke Farrell or Jake Tunges go down. You could do that. Now, if the 49ers decide, though, that Kyle Juszczyk's comfortable enough playing that tight end spot, which he plays it a lot, he plays that move tight end position a lot, then you might not need it. It might be unnecessary. You could keep somebody else active. But I think right now I would lean towards Braden Willis being active in this game, but I can definitely find a way that they don't have him elevated in this game if the 49ers feel comfortable with Kyle Juszczyk handling some of the move tight end responsibilities.
Ronnie Montoya asked, did Valdez crack the stat sheet? And he did not. He didn't have any catches. He didn't have any targets. So if you look at the box score, you're not going to see his name in there. Let's see. Here's a question from Notorious GAV. Is he healthy, though? Wasn't he injured at training camp? Not sure who.
Bourne.
Oh, okay. So this is about Kendrick Bourne. No, he's healthy now, right?
Yeah, he had a sprained foot. That's what Notorious GAV is referring to. During New England's training camp, there was a lot of thought that maybe he would start on the PUP list, and he wouldn't even or the IR and wouldn't be available. They released him, but yeah, they did a workout. They checked him out and they said he's good to go. So he's practicing. He's going to practice today for the San Francisco 49ers. So there'll be a first look at Kendrick Bourne, number 84, out there practicing. He is healthy and ready to go.
So you think that one of the elevations that come down on Saturday, you think that could be Braden Willis instead of Russell Gage? And who do you think the other one would be?
Yeah, I think this one's kind of up in the air. I don't know. Like last week they went with Curtis Robinson for special teams reasons. They might not be able to do that. Some of it's going to depend on injuries. If Jawan Jennings is out, there's a chance that you could see Russell Gage again. If Jawan Jennings plays, I think they might wait on Russell Gage because they have Kendrick Bourne. You might not need to go that direction. I think that they feel pretty comfortable with their safety position, so they don't need to elevate one there. I think it comes down to linebacker and tight end. I think those are probably the two key positions that you look at. Offensive line, abundant of talent. Defensive line, abundant of talent on the active roster. No need to go there, but we'll see. I mean, if they need to, they could always let Nick Martin play special teams, and Curtis Robinson could not play, and then go ahead and bring up a Braden Willis. And I think that could be what they do.
Why do you think Nick Martin was not elevated?
It was completely special teams.
Active. Why he wasn't active?
It's completely special teams based. All right. I mean, when you looked at the depth chart, it was pretty easy coming out. I know there was a lot of conversation about whether Nick Martin should start after how good he played in the end of the preseason. That was not going to happen. When you looked at this depth chart, it was Fred Warner, D. Winters, Luke Gifford, Tatum Bethune, then Nick Martin. And he was that last guy. And he's not as good on special teams right now as Curtis Robinson. So they elected to go with Curtis Robinson, the veteran who understands how to play special teams and is highly effective at it. And at some point, Nick Martin, he will be that guy because he's going to be a special teams ace because of how athletic he is. But it just kind of further illustrated where he was on the depth chart. He's a developmental guy. At some point, he's going to break through and he's going to have a huge season. But it's not that time yet.
I want to know what you thought about the other rookies. Obviously, Martin was inactive. Mykel Williams played a lot. Upton Stout played a lot. Marquise Siegel played a lot. Williams and West didn't play much at all. So what stood out? First, do you think that those two not playing very much was just because they're working them into this and they're not ready? And then second, how did Williams, Stout, and Siegel play? I know that Stout was easier to grade because he had some rough moments early on, but then he also made some plays. So what did you think about the guys who played a lot, and what about the two that didn't play very much? How did you see things with them?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, the shining star so far is Marquise Siegel. He gets the start, and what a tip of the cap for Robert Saleh and this defensive coaching staff to say, hey, Marquise Siegel, go get it. You didn't have OTAs, but you're ready. And I thought that he looked ready. He had some key big-time tackles. He filled really well in the run game. He did not get exposed in coverage. He was where he was supposed to be. He looked comfortable out there. All the film afterwards, it completely just backs up everything you saw in that game. Marquise Siegel is ahead of schedule. This guy is further along than we ever thought he was going to be. This is great. Once Malik Mustafa comes back, we're going to have two safeties that complement each other that are absolute missiles out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Marquise Siegel was great. Mykel Williams is going to catch some heat because he didn't show up on the stat sheet, but that's not what it's about. He created opportunities for other players, whether it was keeping offensive linemen off linebackers or setting an edge in the run game, or Nick Bosa's first big hit of Sam Darnold. He's the one that helps create the lane on the line stunt by going ahead and becoming an offensive type lineman and blocking that guy so Nick Bosa can get a free shot. Ball ends up going off Abraham Lucas's head. Marquise Siegel makes a tackle right there on the tight end. It was a phenomenal play all the way around. Those are the things that don't show up that Mykel Williams is executing. Now, like I say about all these guys, is it perfect? No. There's still things he needs to work on. There's still things that he's got to get better at. But I thought that there was a lot of really good things from Mykel Williams that don't show up on the stat sheet that were nice. Now, Upton Stout, everyone saw him get exposed on the out and up. Here's the good news. Later on in the third quarter, they try it again on the other side of the field, and Upton Stout is in way better position. So that means he's learning as the game's going on. And if you can learn from rep to rep, that's a huge positive. He wasn't right on Jackson Smith and Jigba, but close enough that there was an errant throw, and he was within reach. So that's a good sign for Upton Stout. He was also good in run fits. He came up a couple times and blew up plays and helped set up things. So once again, not stat sheet numbers, but things that show up. So I thought that he did a good job. There were the problems, but there was also some good things too. He's developing. When it comes to Alfred Collins and CJ West, I liked what CJ West did a little bit more than Alfred Collins. I thought Alfred Collins was struggling a little bit. Everyone saw him kind of get laid out. He didn't see the trap coming. So what he did is he went upfield. He was trying to hit Abraham Lucas. Lucas is going to let him go. They want you to come free so they can come hit you with the guard. He lost his feet, lost his balance, got absolutely speared by the young rookie coming from the other side. So it wasn't a great game for Alfred Collins. It was a learning experience, and let's see how he develops. So I would say he's got a lot of work to do. CJ West, you see in some of the instincts, right? He shows up on the screen pass out wide. He's hustling and running things down. Still pad level a little high. I think those guys, both those guys need to work on it. They're going to continue to be rotational pieces, but you see why the 49ers like him. They just got a lot of development, and it explains why they're not playing as much as the other three rookies who played, primarily most of the game. Mikael Williams and Marquis Siegel basically played almost every single snap. Siegel never even got subbed out. So it was good for the rookies.
Good. How about Bryce Huff? He had one quarterback pressure. Other than that, I didn't see him a whole lot. I think on that final play where Nick Bosa basically closed out the game, it looked like Huff was getting there as well on that play. But what did you see from Bryce Huff?
Yeah, luckily I just finished, all my defensive film breakdown on Patreon, and Bryce Huff was a little bit of a problem. He forced some throws to get out there a little bit quicker from Sam Darnold. Maybe he doesn't get a pressure, but he was coming scot-free on a couple of those. There's another one where he beat the tight end and then beat Abraham Lucas and nearly got to Sam Darnold. I thought he looked effective. That last play where the fumble happened, Sam Darnold hits Abraham Lucas's behind. He's pushing from the other side. He's getting held around the collar as he's kind of pushing his guy back as well, Charles Cross. So I thought it was a good first game from him. He didn't have any of the stats. But when you look at some of the footballs, and he kind of got in the way of Sam Darnold, made him check it down a little bit early, came scot-free, you notice the speed right away. So it's just a matter of time before he gets to the quarterback and he gets some sacks. There won't be not all the quarterbacks are going to get rid of the ball as quickly as Sam Darnold. Some are going to hold on to it maybe this week with Spencer Rattler, and the 49ers can get some sacks against what could be a makeshift line for the Saints. Talise Fuaga dealing with an injury, no Trevor Penning, possibly at guard. So they've got some interesting matchups for the 49ers, and I think he's going to continue to get better and better. But I thought it was a good game. It wasn't a great game, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler is not a good quarterback. I said that in college when he was at Oklahoma. He didn't really have an easy job. There was Baker Mayfield, and then Kyler Murray, and then Jalen Hurts, and then Rattler followed the two Heisman Trophy winners and the Heisman runner-up, and was just bad. And then he was the one that was kind of thrown to the side because Caleb Williams came. But man, I never thought that I really didn't think that he would make it in the NFL. So he's already done better than I thought that he would. Hopefully he doesn't make me eat my words and really dice up the 49ers this week, but I'm not overly concerned. Spencer Rattler versus Robert Saleh. I think I'll go with Saleh on that one. So tell me who stood out to you and who needs to get better.
I think the easiest thing to say is who stood out to me was D. Winters, Marquis Siegel. Those guys were the guys who jumped off. I thought that they looked really good in this game. I thought Jordan Elliott and Kalia Davis also had some pretty big havoc type plays where they got in the backfield and wreaked havoc. But Siegel and D. Winters automatically stood out to me. And as far as guys who need to get a little bit better, I think it's going to come down to those rookies along the defensive line, but also the offensive line. It's got to have a little bit more continuity. This wasn't a bad Jake Brendel game. Brendel actually played pretty well, but guys like Ben Barch, he had a couple of plays here and there. Trent Williams, Colton McKivitz, Dominic Pooney, I don't think the knee's 100%. I think the way he's moving laterally, it's not 100%, or he would have played better. But I think that offensive line needs to play a little bit better for the 49ers to be successful in the run game. And I think that it kind of extends to the tight ends as well. Even though Farrell and Tunges made plays in the passing game, we're going to need a lot from them blocking, because now you're not going to have all-pro George Kittle for a while. So Farrell's going to have to prove why they brought him here. He's going to have to block effectively. And Tunges as well. Both of them are hit and miss with their blocking, and I like to see it be more effective. I thought it was a complete unit, offensive line tight ends that need to get a little bit better overall.
When it comes to pass rush, you talked a little bit about Bryce Huff. Sam Okawanu forced the fumble that the rookie recovered. But according to PFF, Yetur Gross-Matos led the league in interior pass rush in week 1. That's not something that I expected to read today. Did he look that good on film?
Yeah, that unit that the 49ers were displaying, that NASCAR unit, and they went full NASCAR. This is what I kept saying this offseason, was they were going to do it. Bryce Huff, Nick Bosa with Yetur Gross-Matos and Mikael Williams on the inside. And Yetur Gross-Matos' lateral quickness was a problem for interior offensive linemen, but also Robert Saleh was doing a good job of freeing these guys up with stunts and moves and twists. He was doing a really good job of allowing them. But this is what we expected. I thought Yetur Gross-Matos was going to play 10 to 12 plays in this game. He ended up playing 14 as they're working him back in as more of a pass rush specialist on the inside right now. This is where he's going to make his bacon. I mean, this is what he does really well. When he was in Carolina, he got 4 sacks just playing on the inside. So expect that to continue. I don't think it surprised me that he was effective. I think it surprised me that right now he's the number 1 in the NFL in interior pass rush rate. And that's something the 49ers definitely need. And some of that is him and Mikael Williams are able to work together. You got the speed element from the outside with Bosa and Bryce Huff. This is a good unit the 49ers put together, and I expect Yetur Gross-Matos, as long as he can stay healthy, to elevate his game, and he's going to have sacks. I picked him to be one of those X-factor players this year and to have around 6 sacks. I still think it can happen. The more effective Bosa, the more effective Bryce Huff are, the more it opens up things on the middle for Mikael Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos.
All right, let's talk 49ers Saints. When the 49ers have the ball, and this is kind of hard because we don't know who the quarterback is going to be yet. What are you concerned about, and where do you think the 49ers have the advantage?
I think the 49ers have the advantage in the run game. I think that's going to be a big staple this week, is establishing a run game and really attacking the Saints defensive line. I think the Saints defensive line is not bad, but they're definitely a little bit older in some categories. In some areas, they're suffering from injury. They're not. I don't know if they're going to have Chase Young. He missed week 1. We'll see what happens there. But this is a group that's got a decent linebacker group. I think they got one of the better linebackers in Demario Davis. But after that, it's just okay. And so I think this is where the 49ers go after him. I think they're going to try to really run the football, shorten the game, win the time of possession, somewhat what they did against Seattle, except they got to capitalize and score more points. And I think where you're going to see a real advantage for the 49ers in this game is when it comes to the red zone. The Saints defense was really bad in the red zone last week. They allowed 66% touchdown conversion rate against the Cardinals. So if you get in the red zone, you have a good chance to score touchdowns. 49ers weren't great on offense last week. 40%, right? A fingertip away from being a lot higher than that if Brock Purdy makes that throw. But I think that's one of the categories. Another thing, third down defense for the Saints, not very good, partly because the Cardinals faced a lot of third and shorts. 49ers need to stay ahead of the sticks, and I think that's one of the keys to winning against the Saints defense.
Now, didn't the Saints defense, I was trying to look this up, I believe that they sacked, let me see if I can find this. I want to see that Kyler Murray was sacked 5 times. Yeah, I thought that I saw that. So, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at that film to see, was that Kyler Murray? Was that the offensive line? Or did the Saints just do a good job of getting after the quarterback?
It's a combination of both. I think that Kyler Murray, he's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. He loses yards. He holds on to the football. And those kinds of things usually come around with the Cardinals. But it's not like the Saints don't have guys who could pass rush. So they can get after the quarterback a little. I don't think they're a 5-sack quarterback team. I don't think they're going to get Brock Purdy 5 times. But if you told me that they got a couple of sacks, I think that'd be a plausible thing. I thought that it was more on the Cardinals and Kyler Murray holding on the football than it was on the Saints just being dynamic as far as getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, and it looks like Trey Benson ran for 69 yards, 8.6 per carry. James Conner went for 39. Then Murray went for 38. So only the three of them ran the ball, but they ran it for 146 yards. So yeah, that'll be interesting. The 49ers are going to have to do a better job protecting their quarterback than they did in week 1. And I think that they probably will in New Orleans. How about when the Saints have the ball and the 49ers defense is on the field? What do you see in there? Because Spencer Rattler threw the ball 46 times on Sunday, but he only had 214 yards passing. Alvin Kamara rushed for 45 yards. Rattler went for 29. They don't have a whole lot of weapons. I mean, they have Brandon Cooks, Chris Olave, nothing that's really going to scare anybody. So I'm not as concerned about the offense as I am the defense of the Saints. But when they have the ball, how do you see where are the 49ers really going to excel, and where might we be a little concerned?
Well, I think the Saints' offensive line injuries are what's going to hurt them a lot as far as moving the football. If Talise Fuaga can't go, that means that they're missing 2 of their starting offensive line that they were expecting to have this year, and I think that will make a huge difference on how well they're able to run the football. And, the first thing always is to slow down Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is that dual threat running back, can run it really well. He's got good vision. Can break tackles. You love the way he does it. He also catches the ball in the backfield. The good thing is the 49ers are built for this. D. Winters is built to cover running backs out of the backfield, and Marquise Siegel is built to cover running backs out of the backfield. And that's going to be another thing. Jawan Johnson, the tight end for the New Orleans Saints, had a couple of really good catches, almost made a tremendous catch in the end zone that would have tied the game. That's going to be a nice matchup for Jason Pennick and for Marquise Siegel on Jawan Johnson. So I think that's going to be interesting as well. But Brandon Cooks is probably their most effective wide receiver right now. The experience of just knowing where to go. And I think that's another thing for Upton Stout. Now he's got another matchup. Brandon Cooks in the slot. How is he going to be able to handle it? And Cooks is going to move all over. He can play X. He can play Z. He can play the slot. He's going to move all over. Same with Chris Olave. That's going to be the key. Can they take advantage of Upton Stout again? Upton Stout has proven he's up to the challenge. He's going to have to be physical with Cooks because Cooks is super fast. So that's going to be something interesting. But yeah, I think that they got some weapons. It is Olave, it's Cooks, it's Jawan Johnson, Alvin Kamara. You just got to make sure you stick with those guys. I do think the 49ers match up well against New Orleans Saints as long as they slow down the run early and they're able to earn the right to rush the passer. I think they're going to get off the field. The Saints faced a lot of 3rd and longs last week. They weren't good converting on 3rd down last week. That was something the 49ers defense was great at. 30% conversion rate against the 49ers last week on 3rd down. That's elite caliber level. I kind of expect that to continue this week.
How do you see this playing out? Last week, I picked the 49ers to win 20-17. I called for a Jake Moody game winner. Didn't work out that way, but they still won. And so that's all that matters. I think the 49ers are going to take the Saints this week as well. Hopefully by more than 3 or 4 points, hopefully double digits, but who knows? I mean, you're going on the road into the Superdome that traditionally is a loud place to play, with this Saints team not being that good. I don't know how loud it's going to be there, but they usually are pretty loud even when the Saints aren't that great. So how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, right now, FanDuel has the 49ers favored by 4.5 in New Orleans. So more than a field goal, I think that's a pretty good mark. I do think the 49ers are going to handle business in this matchup. And a lot of the reason why is the defense playing so well and just some of the injuries for the Saints along the offensive line. And this thing could get a lot closer, right? If Brock Purdy doesn't play and Jawan Jennings doesn't play, I think that this game could be a lot closer. I think if Brock Purdy and Jawan Jennings both play and the defense plays even close to what it did last week against the Seahawks, I think they'll slow the Saints down, and I think they'll have a lot of opportunities on offense. I think the 49ers are going to score some points in this game, even if it's Mac Jones. I think if it's Brock Purdy, I'm going to make this call with the Brock Purdy at quarterback and just know that if it's Mac Jones, we're going to adjust it a little bit. I think the 49ers are going to score 27, and I think they're going to hold the Saints to 13. I do. I think they're going to get a 2-touchdown victory. I think the Saints are just going to struggle to move the ball against the 49ers defense. Defense is more athletic. They're younger. They're more feisty. And I think that if they have a young offensive tackle in Kelvin Banks, we like him, but he's going to be going against Bosa and Bryce Huff and those guys all game. I think that's a problem. And then if Talise Fuaga is out, that's going to be an issue. Not to mention, they have some real injuries in the secondary as well, as Julian Blackmon is probably out for the year, and his backup safety missed the week 1, so he's hurt too. They might have to start rookie Jonas Sanker at safety. So there's some real concerns for the Saints when it comes to injuries. You think the 49ers are thin when it comes to injuries? The Saints are further along in that. The surprise retirement by Tyrann Mathieu really hurt them. And so there's some definite things there. 49ers 27, Saints 13 is kind of where I'm going.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Thanks for it's been a pretty active chat for being an early morning. Your show is sponsored by FanDuel. Do you want to say anything about them?
Yeah. Title sponsor of 49ers Cutback is FanDuel. You can go over there, bet on. They got all kinds of player props, who scores the first touchdown, all things like that. The over-under right now for this game is 42.5. So, last week, all but 2 games made the under for all the games. So it's something cool to bet on. If you guys like FanDuel, go check it out. They are the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback.
All right. Great stuff, Ant. And thanks, everybody, for joining us here early on this Wednesday morning. We'll be back next Wednesday as well. We're going to try and keep this time throughout the season. Just with our schedules, this seemed to work out the best. But thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hope that everybody has a great week, and say a little prayer for Brock Purdy today.